Okay, let's unpack this. We are constantly, confronted with this idea that wisdom is all about one clean choice.
Right.
It's knowing when to commit or knowing when to walk away. The classic stay or leave binary. Endure or escape.
And it feels so compelling, doesn't it? It feels like this is the ultimate test of your character, of your discernment.
Exactly.
We assume that any, heavy moment or deep rupture means you have to pick a side.
Hmm.
It's a straight line.
Sure.
I'm either all in, sacrificing everything, or I'm all out,
Hmm.
cutting my losses.
But what if that whole decision-making process,
Mm.
what if it isn't really discernment? What if it's something, I don't know, more primitive?
That is the absolute core of what we're looking at today.
Yeah.
What we think of as this really thoughtful, difficult choice between A and B.
Yeah.
It's often just what our sources call a neurological narrowing, masquerading as discernment.
Neurological narrowing. I find that phrase so powerful.
It's perfect.
It just names that tunnel vision we all get when the pressure's on. It's not a character flaw,
Oh.
it's biological.
It's totally biological. I mean, think about it this way. When your nervous system detects danger, and that danger could be anything, financial ruin, being misunderstood, whatever,
A tough conversation.
a tough conversation, it shifts into survival mode.
Yeah.
And when the body braces, your options just collapse. The part of your brain that does nuance, the frontal cortex, it just goes offline. You don't need nuance to run from a tiger.
So your body just defaults to the simplest options available.
Exactly. The only choices the body can even perceive are cling or run, disappear or abandon, freeze or flee. And you only see two paths, and often they both look terrible.
Which is why people get stuck for years, for lifetimes.
That's the loop.
They stay in a job or a relationship that's just hollowing them out because they believe that love means not needing anything or that contribution demands total self-sacrifice.
They stay, but they shrink. They're there in body, but not in spirit.
Or, on the flip side, they live too soon. They feel that discomfort of growth and they mistake it for a sign that something is wrong.
Yes. They interpret a healthy challenge as some kind of existential threat. So they flee the opportunity, the relationship, the project, before it can actually become something real. They can't tolerate the heat of their own becoming.
So in both cases, shrinking or fleeing, the decision is coming from fear. It's coming from contraction, not from clarity. And that brings us to our mission for this deep dive, exploring what we're calling the third path, the choice that isn't just stay or leave, but something much more whole.
And what's so critical about this third path is that you can't just think your way there. You can't use willpower. It has to be, and this is the key word, resourced.
Let's pause on that word, resourced, because for anyone listening who's used to, five-step strategies, why is resourcing a prerequisite?
Okay, think of your nervous system like a muscle. If you try to lift a heavy, complex new choice, which is what the third path is, without training your capacity for calm and presence, you're just going to drop it.
And you'll grab the lighter weights.
You'll grab the familiar ways, stay or leave. Resourcing is that internal training. It lets you hold the complexity without collapsing back into that primitive reflex. And that new path, it only becomes visible when the survival physiology finally softens.
So before we get into the 3 case studies we have, we want to give you, the listener, a couple of frameworks, the maps that show you what fear is hiding.
And we'd invite you, just for a second, right now, notice what's happening in your body as you hear this. Is there a tightening or a softening? Maybe resistance, maybe curiosity. That physical response is always your first piece of data.
Always.
So let's start with the tool for the moment of crisis. That's spelled C-A-L-M, but read like the word calm, because its job is to interrupt the collapse when you're caught in that stay or leave urgency.
Let's break down the 4 steps.
First, C is for personal. Check the story. What narrative is driving this feeling? Is the story you're telling yourself, like I have to quit or I have to sacrifice everything, is it actually true now? Or is it just familiar, an echo of something old?
Okay, then A is for acknowledge the impulse. What does your body want to do, like, right now?
Yeah, we talk about the big 4 survival responses: fight, flee, freeze, or fawn. Just name the impulse. You don't have to act on it or judge it. Just name it.
And can we just touch on fawn for a second? Because that one is subtle.
It's so subtle and so important. Fawning is when your body tries to manage a threat by getting on its side, by seeking approval.
So people-pleasing.
The extreme version of people-pleasing. Minimizing yourself, agreeing with everything, rushing to help the very person you're afraid of disappointing. It's a strategy for relational safety that we often mistake for just being nice or committed.
Okay, so C is check the story. A is acknowledge the impulse. L.
L is for locate the state. Are you responding from fear, from old habit, or from a place of genuine clarity. And this is where you need a deeper map, what we call the pathway to sovereignty. Which level are you on right now?
And then finally, M is for move wisely. So from this new place of awareness, not from fear, not from urgency, what action actually serves your becoming, not just your protection.
That's the key distinction.
So you mentioned the pathway to sovereignty for that L step. We don't need to memorize all 6 levels, but maybe a quick reminder.
Sure, it's a nonlinear map of our inner development. The lowest level is survival. Everything is a threat. Someone critiques your work, you lash out. It's pure reaction.
Then comes seeking stability. This is where most of us live, especially professionally. You try to control the outside world to feel safe inside.
Instead of lashing out, you write a passive-aggressive email, or you frantically reorganize your whole life. The stay or leave trap is born right here, because the goal is external control.
And the higher levels, self-awareness, integrity, wholeness, freedom, that's where the third path starts to appear.
Exactly, because you start seeing the pattern itself instead of getting caught up in the details of the problem. You realize the issue isn't the job or the partner, it's your own internal response.
Which brings us to the last framework, the circles of influence. It sounds simple, but it's a game changer.
Totally. Most of our suffering, our burnout, comes from living in the circle of no influence.
Trying to change other people's minds.
Or their choices or institutional policies or how they see you. It's exhausting. It's like arguing with the weather.
And freedom then emerges when you bring all that energy back to the circle of full influence.
Which is the only thing you truly control. Your thoughts, your attention, your responses, how you choose to meet this exact moment. Imani, Mateo, and Rowan. They all found their third path when they stopped arguing with the weather and started adjusting their own sails.
Okay, so we have the maps, the column framework, the pathway. Let's see how this plays out in real life.
Let's start with Imani, the artist who loved her work so much that when it finally took off, her deepest impulse was to run.
So Imani, she's an artist, and her art is everything to her, and the universe answers. She gets this incredible invitation for a solo exhibition in Berlin.
The dream. I mean, this is major visibility, international recognition, the kind of thing you work your whole life for.
And the irony is just devastating. The moment of expansion, her big break, it triggers a total physiological collapse.
The sources describe it so vividly. Her throat tightens, her stomach just drops, her shoulders pull in like she's trying to physically shrink. It wasn't joy. It was a full-on flight response.
Her nervous system was screaming, danger!
Because for her, expansion felt exactly like danger. And that feeling, it was layered right over an old wound. She traced it back to this memory from when she was a kid, maybe 7 or 9 years old, a spelling bee or a class presentation, where being the center of attention, being exposed, immediately led to public ridicule.
So her body learned a lesson.
It made a core decision. Being seen equals being violated. Being seen equals humiliation. So her survival strategy became, well, strategic invisibility.
Dim your own light.
Just enough.
Just enough. Contribute, but never, ever stand out. So when the Berlin offer comes, her impulse to retreat is immediate. And this is where the survival brain gets so clever. It uses noble language to justify shrinking.
Right. She starts telling herself it's about artistic integrity. Exactly. Visibility will contaminate my process. Commercial attention will corrupt my intentions. It's the language of commitment, but it's just a disguise for the terror of being seen.
So in that seeking stability mode, she starts avoiding emails from the gallery. She spends days just reorganizing her studio.
Creating systems for system's sake. Anything to get a feeling of external control, because internally, she was in free fall.
But the real catalyst, the thing that just shattered that illusion of control, it was so small, it was a misinterpreted comment online.
Yeah. Someone took her work, a deep exploration of grief, and twisted it into this shallow, celebration of toxic positivity.
Oh, that's brutal.
It's brutal. And that one comment triggers the full cascade. She is right back in that 9-year-old's terror. Her body responds violently, shaking hands, chattering teeth.
And that's the moment.
That's the moment she realizes her shrinking isn't protecting her, it's abandoning herself.
Yeah.
She was ready to pull out of the exhibition, disappear completely. The binary was absolute. Stay visible and be destroyed, or disappear and stay safe.
And this is where she has to use the calm framework to interrupt that collapse and move into self-awareness.
She can't solve the problem of being misunderstood online, but she can track her internal response to it.
So she starts with C. Check the story.
She has to ask herself, is visibility equals danger true now for me as a 32-year-old artist? Or is that a 9-year-old's truth that I'm projecting onto this incredible opportunity? She had to separate the gallery from the classroom.
And that leads her to the circles of influence, this huge shift.
A huge shift. She realizes she cannot control how people interpret her work. That's their circle, the circle of no influence. But she can control how she meets her own fear.
That's her circle.
That is her circle of full influence. So her focus moves from trying to control the reception to, well, to resourcing her response. She acknowledges the fear, but doesn't let it drive the car.
This moves her into integrity. She stops running, and she starts giving these small, honest yeses.
I love that phrase. Instead of running away or just suffering in silence, she writes this incredibly vulnerable email to the gallery director.
Which is the third path. It's not A or B.
It's C. And the nuance here is everything. She admits her anxiety, but she also clearly states the pacing and the support she needs to stay present. She doesn't ask them to cancel. She asked for a boundary, maybe fewer interviews, a different way of engaging.
And how do they respond?
With total respect and gentleness. They offered her a slower timeline. They gave her the support she asked for. And she discovered this amazing thing. She could shape the terms of her visibility instead of just enduring it.
She didn't have to shrink to stay safe. She could expand, but on her own terms.
Which is wholeness. Her process moves toward wholeness. She stops trying to preemptively manage how her work will be received. She just creates from this deep, authentic place, trusting the work to hold its own complexity.
And the sources say she's at the opening, and she's not without fear, but she's grounded in the fear.
Yes. She's built a new capacity. She can tell the difference between the discomfort of a real threat and the discomfort of healthy, necessary expansion.
So freedom, for her, is when a filmmaker approaches her later, and that old impulse to retreat flares up.
But this time, she can track it. She can see it's just expansion, not danger. And she can negotiate the boundaries that let her be seen without feeling consumed.
Her final insight just sums it all up. Visibility is not danger, it is expansion. And I am large enough to hold both my fear and my becoming.
She found a way to stay visible without losing herself.
Yeah.
And that's the question we have to turn to you, the listener. Where are you confusing expansion with danger? Where are you using the language of integrity to justify an impulse to disappear?
Okay, so let's talk about Matteo. He represents the other side of this coin. He didn't flee his commitment, he stayed, but he disappeared inside it.
Right, his whole identity was built on being the rock, the stable, invulnerable one.
So his equation was love equals not needing anything.
Which is just chronic stress masquerading his commitment. I mean, his baseline state was just depletion.
And his body was sending all the signals. The collapse was physical. He gets a diagnosis of chronic stress, burnout. His cortisol levels are through the roof, high blood pressure.
When we talk about high cortisol, that's that feeling, when you're constantly checking your email, waiting for the bomb to drop, even when you're supposed to be relaxing with your family.
And this was a survival strategy from his childhood, which was chaotic. He learned that to keep things stable, he had to be the one who never added to the burden.
Perform until the threat passes. And the threat was vulnerability.
So in his day-to-day life, in that survival and seeking stability phase, he was physically there, he paid the bills, fixed the sink, but he was emotionally gone.
And when he felt that depletion, he didn't look for connection or rest. He tried to optimize.
Oh, this is such a modern trap.
Isn't it? New supplements, new time management apps. He thought efficiency could solve an existential problem. He was trying to create stability by never needing anything from his wife, Elena.
And it was making him profoundly lonely. The sources say he was lonely not because his wife wasn't there, but because he wasn't there. He was just maintaining the structure of the marriage without actually living in it.
He was pouring all his energy into the circle of no influence, trying to control their perception of him as the strong one.
The catalyst wasn't the medical scare, though. It was something smaller, more human.
It was his 7-year-old daughter, Lucia. He was putting her off to check one last urgent email, and she just looked at him with this resignation and said, "I know you're always busy." Shattering. In that one sentence, he saw the truth. He was choosing productivity over presence. His daughter had learned that Dad was available as a function, but not as a person.
And that crisis is what finally pushes him into self-awareness. He has to use calm on himself, and he realizes he's operating from a decision he made when he was 8 years old.
I will never make anyone take care of me. I'll handle things.
So he checks the story. Is it true that if I show a need, I become a burden? Or is that just the story from my childhood? He realized his wife actually wanted to know the real him.
He was trying to control his environment, his circle of no influence, when he needed to pivot back to his circle of full influence. His willingness to just be honest about how tired he was.
His journey into integrity was what he called the risk of honesty. It took him 2 weeks to even find the words. He was bracing for her to be disappointed or frustrated.
And he finally says it. I am not okay. I'm running on empty.
And her response?
It was relief. Pure relief. She said, Mateo, I don't know how to help someone who won't let me see that they need help. And that just shattered his fear. He realized his performance wasn't protecting them, it was pushing her away.
So he began what the sources call the awkward work of presence.
It's so awkward at first. It wasn't about fixing things. It was relational. He practiced just resting in her presence, co-regulation, letting his nervous system soften instead of trying to solve something.
He used emotional voice work, actually saying the words out loud.
I am overwhelmed. I need help. And every time he said it, his body would spike with that 8-year-old's anxiety. But her calm, consistent response slowly retrained his system. Vulnerability does not mean abandonment.
This is what moves him toward wholeness. He discovered he could be both a provider and a person with needs.
Both a husband and someone with limits. He realized his grounded presence was so much more nourishing to his family than his frantic productivity ever was.
And his big moment of wholeness was realizing he had been solving everyone's problems, thinking that was love.
When really love was about being present while someone navigated their own struggle. He didn't have to fix their discomfort. He just had to be there.
So freedom for him wasn't some huge dramatic exit. It was quiet. It was the ability to say, I need an hour to rest, and not have that mean he was failing.
And the family adjusted. The world didn't end. His realization of the third path was, presence is not performance, love does not require self-erasure. I can stay without disappearing.
So we have to ask you, the listener, where are you hiding behind doing instead of being? Where are you physically present but emotionally gone, believing your vulnerability is a threat? Okay, our final example is Rowan, the academic. And his story is about what happens when the very structure you've built your life on starts to collapse.
He loved his work, but he was clinging to the structure of it, the university, because his sense of worth was completely tied to its validation.
He'd been there 18 years, so when huge funding cuts threatened his whole department, his collapse was just immediate. Absolutely.
His identity was built on what the institution thought of him. It went back to a childhood where love was conditional on achievement. So without the university's approval, he felt worthless.
Which sends him straight into survival mode. His response is just frantic overwork, 16-hour days, endless committees, arguing in every meeting.
He was trying to control the uncontrollable. He truly believed that if he just worked hard enough, proved his value enough, these massive systemic economic decisions would somehow be reversed for him.
It's a tragic waste of energy. He was living entirely in the circle of no influence.
Completely. And meanwhile, his body is paying the price. Persistent tightness in his chest, tension headaches, the internal collapse, and the work he actually loved, the research, the thinking, it was all getting consumed by the fight to save the infrastructure.
He was fighting to save the scaffolding, thinking it was the building.
That's a perfect way to put it. He was fighting for the structure that gave him permission to feel valuable.
The catalyst for him was his mentor retiring.
A very wise man, Professor Adeyemi. On his last day, he tells Rowan, your life's work is not this building. The questions you ask, the insights you have, none of that requires this particular structure.
And that just hit him.
It hit him hard. He realized he wasn't fighting for the questions anymore. He was fighting for the affirmation he got from the structure. He saw he had built his whole identity on collapsing scaffolding.
And that realization opens the door to self-awareness, to the calm framework. He has to check the story.
Is it true? Is my worth comes from institutional validation really true now? Or is it an old belief that served him once but is now suffocating him?
He starts asking a different question, not what makes me feel valuable, but
what do I actually love about this work? And he discovers it's the thinking, the rigorous questions, the mentorship, none of which actually require a specific budget line from the university.
He maps his circles of influence and sees just how tragic it is. 90% of his energy is going toward fighting budget decisions, no influence.
Well, his actual research, the thing he can control, his full influence, is getting the leftover 10%.
So his path to integrity meant he had to make a terrifying choice.
Terrifying, but liberating. He decided to stop trying to save the institution.
He withdrew from the committees, he accepted that the department might get smaller, and he brought all that energy back to his actual work.
He stopped trying to change the macro and focused on the micro he could control. He even started this small, unaffiliated reading group that was more intellectually alive than any university committee.
He was separating the work from the unstable container it was in. And that's the key to wholeness for him.
Absolutely. He starts painting again, spending time in his garden, things that have nothing to do with his professional identity. He realizes he is a scholar and a painter, a professor and a gardener. His identity is no longer collapsed into one vulnerable structure.
He learned to love his work without needing it to complete him.
And freedom, for him, meant staying, but staying lightly. He negotiated a reduced load. He accepted the loss. And he continued his work from a place of alignment, not fear. His self-worth was no longer a casualty of the budget meeting.
He learned that core truth. Your work has value independent of whether anyone recognizes it. He stayed with his questions, but without that desperate, clinging attachment.
Which leaves us with a deep reflection for you, the listener. Where are you seeking worth in something that can be taken from you? Where have you mistaken the container for the content?
So when we step back and look at Imani, Matteo, and Rowan, it's just chilling how consistent the internal pattern is, even though their external situations were so different.
Right. Imani ran from expansion, and she called it artistic integrity.
Matteo disappeared inside love, and he called it selfless devotion.
And Rowan clung to a collapsing structure, and he called it institutional contribution.
In every single case, they were trapped in that false binary, stay and shrink, or leave and lose it all.
And in every case, their body was the one telling the truth. Imani's shaky hands, Matteo's cortisol, Rowan's chest tightness. Their physical state was screaming what their minds were trying to rationalize away.
So the transformation, the moment the third path opened up, it was never about finding the right external choice. It was entirely about moving up the pathway to sovereignty.
That binary, that false choice, it only exists at the bottom levels, at survival and seeking stability, because those states are all about external control and reaction.
The second they moved into self-awareness, seeing the pattern, checking the story, suddenly the third path was visible.
And that awareness led them to integrity, taking that aligned, awkward action, and then eventually to wholeness and freedom.
And the engine for that whole journey was the pivot back to the circles of influence. All of their suffering came from pouring energy into the circle of no influence.
Trying to control perceptions, trying to control how much they were needed, trying to control institutional budgets.
And freedom came the moment they brought that energy back home, to their own response, their own honesty, their own pacing.
And the beautiful paradox is, when they let go of trying to control everything, they often ended up having more influence than they ever did when they were desperately gripping.
And that's why the CAM framework is so critical. It's the tool that forces that pivot.
And we have to just emphasize that first step again. Check the story. Most of these binaries are not about what's happening right now. They're projections.
Echoes.
They're echoes of unresolved moments from the past. Imani's 9-year-old fear, Matteo's 8-year-old survival pact. The third path requires you to see the difference between then and now.
And then, that other step, locate the state. This is so important. You have to figure out if you're moving from clarity, from a grounded, resourced place, or if you're moving from what the sources call survival physiology dressed in sophisticated justification.
Is it fear or is it knowing?
Exactly. So as we close out, we just want to invite you to sit with that idea. Don't jump to the story about your life first. Don't go to the should or the must.
Instead, locate your state. Just feel the contraction, feel the tension. Where are you in your body? Before you decide what to do, decide who you are being in this moment. That is the beginning of the third path. Here's the central insight, really, the one that underpins all three of these journeys. Clarity doesn't come when life gets easier. Clarity comes when the body stops bracing.
When you stop bracing, your perception literally widens. The options that were invisible, the third path, they just appear. It was there all along. You were just too contracted, too busy fighting the problem to see the possibility.
The moment you return to yourself, grounded in your own capacity, a path appears that you could not see before. Brief pause. The choice was never stay or go. The real choice is, who am I when I meet this moment without fear?
And that question, it just dissolves the binary. It shifts the focus from the external problem to your internal capacity. It's how you reclaim your sovereignty.
And if this whole exploration is resonating with you, and you want to get a real sense of where you are operating from, survival, stability, awareness, we really recommend the resources that go with this deep dive.
Specifically, there's a free guided somatic practice. It's called Where Am I on the Pathway to Sovereignty? And it's designed to help you feel where you are on that inner staircase when life gets tight. It's not intellectual. It's about sensing the difference between survival urgency and sovereign choice.
And for anyone who's ready to turn that awareness into action, the journal, Your Path to Possibilities, is a really beautiful companion. It helps open up space around those places that feel impossible, helping you see choices beyond the limits your survival brain once assumed.
When you learn to stay with yourself, to stay with your fear, with your needs, with your own uncomfortable expansion, life gives you so much more than just leave or remain. It offers you the path that was waiting for you to become steady enough to see it.
Climb the staircase, breath by breath, with compassion and presence we rise from stress, from fear to peace, from shame to grace. Climb the staircase to sovereignty. When you feel unsafe, too much to bear, you shut down a flare, you vanish, your glare, your heart beats fast, your breath runs tight, you just want out or to make it right. That's survival, the you that just wants to survive.
What you feel is complete powerlessness, a cry for safety, not for success.
Climb the staircase, breath by breath, with compassion and presence we rise from stress, from fear to peace, from shame to grace. Climb the staircase to sovereignty.
When you feel the pressure to fix or prove, you hustle hard, you never stop or move. You shrink your voice to keep control. You manage the threat, but it takes a toll. There's stability, the you that's trying to keep things intact.
What you feel is the pattern unwind. You are no longer lost in the mind. Climb the staircase, breath by breath, let presence be your steady lift. From fear to peace, from shame to grace. Climb the staircase to sovereignty.
When you feel the courage to live what's true, to honor your values and what you do, you choose your voice without defense, even if the world stays tense. That's integrity, the you that remembers what you stand for.
What you feel